Well, it's been a few weeks since I installed Barton's short throw shifter, and I wanted to share my experiences with this product, but specifically and maybe more with this fancy shift knob. The shifter itself works great. The throw is definitely shorter. Shifting became more precise and basically more fun. But then I spent, I think it was like almost 50 bucks US on this, and it came with this part. So you have to install this on the shifter. And the problem with this is that there's two problems that I discovered. So the guy at the shop that installed the shifter, I also asked him to replace the shift knob, right? And so as of this morning, this was here. The only problem is that for some reason, to use this, it has to be used together with this, right? So your shifter becomes, I don't know, maybe like 2 inches taller, you know, which makes no sense because the idea is to make your shifts shorter, right? And so when you, like at the bottom there inside, it is shorter, but then over here, because it became longer, right? First of all, it's not comfortable for the hand, you know, like when you're used to this pretty much the same size as the factory, like this did not change, right? The same height, you know. So if you used to, you know, positioning your arm like this and your hand like this, then with this one I discovered that it was kind of awkward, you know, like I had to do like this. And so because of the size of this thing, the shifts actually they remain the same, because, you know, like you have a big lever, right? Even though at the bottom where it's connected to the transmission, the shifts are short, but at the top, because you're moving this tall thing, right, it didn't make sense. So that's problem number one with this one, specifically because of this ring, and also because this is much bigger. Like this one, it's not a full cylinder, you can see here, right? You see, like this one is much taller, and also this one is a full ball, whereas this one is cut over here, right? And so that's one problem. So it's too big. And the second problem, and another major reason why I went back to the shop today and I asked the guy to replace it, because I was afraid to, you know, damage the thread, because it's all done by hand, like replacing. But I also was not sure if I need to keep this or not with this new shifter, right? And I went in and I said, did this come with the actual Barton's shifter, or did this come with the knob? And we were both scratching our heads, and then the guy says, let me try. And so he took this off and he put this on, and it fits, and the lockout works fine. See, so this is much better. And so yeah, reason number one is the height, which makes actually the throw pretty much the same as the factory. But reason number two, like if you're somewhere in a warm climate zone, you know, like Texas or Florida, this is fine. But here in Canada, it was like plus 9 in the morning Celsius, which is like 48, 49 F. And the first thing I get inside the car after I was sitting, you know, outside in this freeze for a night, is that this shifter becomes extremely cold. It becomes uncomfortable, you know. Even at 50 F, it's already feels like unpleasant, you know. And the winter is coming. I'm in Canada, I'm in Ontario, Canada, so I was just thinking, wait a second, if it feels this bad at plus 10 Celsius or 50 F, what's gonna happen when the car, I'm a trucker, right? So I leave the car, you know, for a week or 2 weeks, and then I come back. What if like minus, you know, 20 or 0 F outside? Well, this would be freezing. You basically have to use a glove to hold it in winter, you know. So very fancy product, again, very fancy, good looking, with all these nice logos, you know, perfectly sculptured and manufactured, but it just you know, aluminum, you see, made in USA. But just has these two major flaws: the height and the coolness, the freezing factor, so to speak, in cold weather. Again, if you're in a warm climate, this is not gonna affect you, but if you're somewhere like Minnesota, Michigan, Alberta, Ontario, forget it. So I'm back to the factory shifter, and now we're gonna do some POV driving, and you'll see how it shifts. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, reverse. Just to go quickly over the mods that I've had, so the ratio was changed from 315, I believe it was, to 373. The ratio was too fast. I couldn't drive in 6th gear on the freeway over here. The exhaust was changed to American Thunder exhaust. Step 3 was removal of the resonator and installing the Flowmaster X-pipe. Right, and then I got a cheap tuner from Hypotech with canned tunes. They work fine. And also I just use a drop-in K&N filter, not air intake, but just regular filter, but it does let in more air. And I tried alternating them with the factory one. I do feel the difference. So the exhaust, the X-pipe, 373 was the biggest probably bang for the buck. The change, and who's calling? I'm driving. I forgot to forgot to turn the Bluetooth on the phone. But I don't have voicemail. I hate voicemail, so I called my cellular provider. I said, disable voicemail. So now whenever somebody's calling, the phone just keeps ringing and there's no greeting, no message, nothing. But then I can look at the caller ID, I can call them back. Anyway, so yeah, and then of course this latest upgrade was the shifter, where I installed like a complete assembly from Barton, like the more expensive one, not just the lever, but the whole thing. So it replaced the factory shifter. And like I said, I thought it would be cool to have that Mustang knob, but it's just not practical. I like this short shifter much better. This is still a naturally aspirated engine, V6. probably have slightly more power now than the 300 horsepower it came with, because of the exhaust and mostly the tuner. Probably a couple of horsepower came from the K&N filter, the X pipe, nothing from the shifter. But the shifter really makes things funky. We're just gonna go briefly on the freeway so you guys can hear the acceleration. I love how my exhaust sounds. And yeah, this is just a V6. Couldn't afford a GT, but also I didn't think I needed. I don't need 460 horsepower. I'm okay with let's say 350. But next we may install the supercharger. Not quite sure I need it, because this car is lighter than a GT, so it's pretty fast. And also another thing I was considering is the turbo. There's a company in, I think, Kansas. They made a kit that allows V6 Mustangs to use turbo from the EcoBoost, like the 2.3. I hate this. And so yeah, the thing, that turbo, it's a dual turbo, like two small turbos. They're more complex to install, but this company that makes this kit like supplies everything, and it's about 50% cheaper than the supercharger. Like, it does produce a little bit less power, but mostly it beats the supercharger under, I think, like 4,000 RPM. Well, you get more torque with the turbo, you know, and that's what we see. Like now I'm driving 45 miles an hour and my RPM is 2,500. Well, like with the supercharger, you don't see much benefit until you climb into like 5,000–6,000 RPMs. Like that's more for racing.